So it's finished Nottingham Forest 0, Arsenal 0. And yeah, okay, you could talk about this as a top of the table clash between two teams who still have a chance of winning the league. Or you could say it for what it was, which was turgid, boring, uninspiring, short of ideas, poor execution, not enough energy on show. I've heard a lot tonight from people saying, "Oh, the Arsenal's positives, There are no Arsenal positives. There is no one out there tonight who's watched that and the West Ham game. 180 minutes of football with 3 shots on target. Nobody watches their team with 1 shot an hour. And let's be honest, those shots not really good enough either. Nobody watches that. Nobody watches us playing Trossard, our only recognised forward up front. Marino up front. Last 2 games started because he did well coming on against a tired Leicester. He was the hope. No one watches a 17-year-old Ethan Nwaneri who's cramping up at half-time, carry on as much as he can, be our only real attacking threat. Nobody watches that and comes away positive. Nobody then flicks over to watch Liverpool do another great job of work against Newcastle. It doesn't matter who they play at the moment. They are full of confidence, full of running. They're taking teams apart. City on the weekend, Newcastle tonight. They're 13 points clear. All right, we have a game in hand. So even if we win our game in hand, which is not easy to do if you can't score goals, but even if we win our game in hand, it's 10 points of difference with 10 games to go. I know we've had seasons in the past where we've been able to do that. I know I've always said that while it's still mathematically possible, I will support and cheer this team on. And I will do. We all turned up to watch us play against Nottingham Forest. Before the game tonight, be honest, were you excited? It's a tough game. I had it down as a draw months ago. But I had it down as a draw. I had the West Ham game down as a win. So if you're going to lose at home to West Ham, you've got to bounce back. And you got to bounce back. And we didn't. And we don't look like we know how to bounce back. So what is wrong? The other thing is, everybody is out there at the moment going, we should have bought a striker, and they're looking for who to blame. We are going to need to understand as a fan base, we are going to need answers. This failure to sign anyone in January, any forward players in summer, we get a last minute deal across the line, which Edu admitted Sterling sort of landed in our lap. And I think watching him now, you can kind of see why Chelsea were happy to pay his wages to have him play for us. But it wasn't Sterling isn't the problem. If we'd signed a couple of forwards alongside Sterling, it wouldn't matter. But we didn't. It seems like we only really went for Benjamin Sesko. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But this season has been a huge disappointment across the board. Results because of decisions that have gone against us in VAR terms, red cards that were laughable. Some red cards we've deserved. Miles Lewis-Skelly against West Ham, I don't think you can complain about that. Over-relying on our youngsters. But for me, do you know what? If I had to sum up this season, it would be that third kit. That kind of, I know it's colourful, but it's bland. It kind of is trying to appeal to everybody. Has no identity about it. It's just ugly. It's ugly like this season has been. What were we thinking? Taking a risk on not supplementing our forward line, even though Jesus was out for the season. Saka had a long-term injury, which, let's be honest, he may not come back this season. He may not make it back. We have a threadbare forward line at best, and they don't supplement it. Yesterday, look, I know Aston Villa got absolutely battered, but their result against Chelsea and their activity in the transfer market, bringing in 3 forwards, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Teams out there that are rolling the dice saying, we have a chance to do something. Now, in Aston Villa's case, that's going to be to push on to try and get in these top 5 places. It's key for Newcastle. So many teams going for the top 5 places this season. Nottingham Forest are doing great to be where they are. But we didn't. We did nothing. I don't know why. This season, Edu leaving in November. I said at the time, whatever you think about whether he just got an offer too good to refuse, it doesn't fill you with confidence. If your own sporting director leaves mid-season, it implies he doesn't think we're going to win the Premier League. I heard lots of people at the time saying, well, he's just had a fantastic offer. But my point to them was, if you stay and you win the Premier League with Arsenal, the offers will not slow down. He might have left because he thought it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, or he might have left because he was frustrated at Arsenal. Let's think about this. Let's try and be logical, because there's a lot of shouting, or at least there was a lot of shouting. There's only a few idiots shouting now. There's no point shouting. Most of us are just fed up. We're resigned. We're not shouting. We're just quietly pissed off. We're angry because decisions have been made at this club which don't make any sense to any of us. Of course, not signing a player doesn't make any sense to us in January or in summer. Why was that, though? Was this part down to Edu? Did he let us down in summer? Did we go for targets? What happened since Edu left in November, we haven't replaced him. Jason Ato, we were told, well, he's been his assistant, he's worked very closely with him, he's worked on all these deals so he can get deals over the line. Well, he hasn't. Do we have a scouting network? We've got players, our young players leaving. Aidan Heaven joins Chido Obi-Martin to go with Mario Cozier-Dubry and Raul Walters and Lino Souza, and just a flock of teenagers going. But the PR machine will tell you Max Dowman's the great prospect. He's not going to come good for a few years yet. At least 2 or 3. He's 14. We've got Butler Oyedeji on the bench, and it doesn't matter what happens in a game. He's not coming on. This season has just had one thing after another go against us. Maybe this is how it is. Maybe you have 2 really strong seasons and you have a season where you have to pull back a little bit and go again next season. We're going to need massive transfer window in the summer. But is Arteta going to take us through it? Arteta is not without blame here. I don't subscribe to the view that Arteta was the reason we didn't sign anyone. That's ridiculous. You don't have a sporting director, a CEO, an entire team of negotiators and then blame the manager because he wasn't out there signing players. So even if he vetoed certain players, which I really don't think he did, given that in his press conferences he was talking about how short we were, I think he'd have taken Rashford at a certain point. I think he would have taken just about anyone to have someone on the bench. But Arteta is also responsible for finding a way to make the most of the resources we have. The frustrations you can have with Arteta is sometimes he makes mistakes and he doesn't ever seem to be able to correct them. Whether we're talking about Willian constantly getting played, or now it feels like we also have to add to that Thomas Partey as a right back, which is something that nobody thought was working except for Mikel Arteta. And now you can almost add to that Mikel Merino starting up front. Listen, he was great when he came on against Leicester. Something different. Energy, running. I don't know where he's playing tonight, because that's a very false 9 if he's a false 9. We could have won tonight. Calafiori was unlucky with his shot. The fact that Calafiori's taking our best chances. I'm not angry with the players. I would like to know what we need to do to unlock Martin Odegaard. Increasingly, and I want to hear from you on this one, increasingly I've started to feel that Martin Odegaard is not a 10. Look, I know some of you are thinking, I know you're actually thinking, I've known that all along. Maybe the idea is when Bukayo Saka's back, we can play Ethan Nwaneri and the 10 and Odegaard as a left 8 with Declan Rice behind. Thomas Partey getting left out tonight, weird for me. Jorginho playing, didn't hate it. I mean, if there are any positives, we went to Nottingham Forest and we had the ball in their half. We were camped out. They barely got a chance. They looked dangerous from the break, but nothing like we've seen them look this season. This has been a really inspiring Nottingham Forest season. It's deeply frustrating to hear Nottingham Forest It's deeply frustrating to hear Nottingham Forest fans, amongst others, singing Champions of Europe, you'll never sing that. When I think about it, though, it's been 45 years since Nottingham Forest won the European Cup. Like, how many of their fans remember it? But that's just me being a bit salty. Everywhere we go, the fans like to chant at us, same old Arsenal always cheating. I think we fall over a little bit easily. I think we go to ground a little bit easy. I really like Martin Odegaard. But this is what I'm saying. When's he going to grab a game by the scruff of the neck and drive us forward? Maybe that's just not the position that he is. Maybe that's not the kind of man he is. When we signed Declan Rice, I thought, this will be interesting. He'll challenge for the captaincy. But in the last couple of games, he's drifted. Do we have enough warriors on that pitch? I was really glad to see Ben White come on. But I mean, come on, all we've got on the bench is defenders, fullbacks. Zinchenko coming on at half-time. No one thinks that Zinchenko is going to... Although that said, of course, had he not been fractionally offside and had Martin Odegaard finished the chance. Ifs and buts. We've got PSV next. We get a week off because, of course, we're not in the FA Cup. We've got PSV next. And if I'm convinced we're not winning the league, I'm only marginally less convinced that we're going to go out of the Champions League, if not against PSV, which I think is most likely, then definitely against one of the Madrid teams. Real Madrid are not panicking that we'll get through that. Even if we have Bukayo Saka back in any kind of shape for then, he won't be match fit, and it's asking a lot. Now, there'll be plenty of time in the rest of this, and 11 games left of the season. It just feels so down that, at least in the last couple of seasons, we've gone to the wire or near it. Saturday's capitulation at West Ham just came much earlier than we're used to. But Arteta does need to rethink some things. You can't keep trying the same thing and hoping for different results. When he's coming out in press conferences saying, over my dead body, it's just words. We need to see it on the pitch. 190 minutes with no goals scored says a lot more than any press conference. Is pressure going to grow on him? Have the Cronkies not given him money in the transfer window because they've started to doubt him? That's a really good explanation for what's going on. Maybe, unlike Manchester United, they don't just want to give their incumbent manager a ton of money to buy players that aren't really good enough. I never get the impression that Arteta makes those kind of decisions at Arsenal anyway. Maybe we are just suffering from the fact that we don't have a sporting director. There's lots of speculation about who's coming in. I'll cover that in a separate video. Maybe there's a lot to look forward to. Maybe there's a huge summer spending spree. Maybe players come back fit. Maybe we do something remarkable in the Champions League. Cup games, you never know. But to summarise, I am not positive. I am not feeling upbeat. But I'm an Arsenal fan. And I have to come and support the team no matter what. I've definitely cheered on worse Arsenal teams than this one. This is a really solid defensive team, a bit like the George Graham era, but without Alan Smith up front. If only we'd signed Alan Smith up front. Maybe he's a free agent. Maybe it's still possible. Anyway, Nottingham Forest 0, Arsenal 0. Season title challenge over. Has been for a while anyway. We can all accept that now and move on. Questions are being asked and will need to be answered at some point as to how we got here. Mistakes have been made. It'd be nice to think that somebody would come out and hold their hands up and say, look, we gambled and it went wrong. We'll put it right in summer. But a PR machine will come out and say, we kept our powder dry. The right players weren't available. It's just nonsense, isn't it? It's nonsense. Especially when you see Eddie Nketiah scoring yesterday. We could have kept him. We could have kept Emil Smith-Rowe. We've had a really good season for finances last year. We've got lots of money. We go again, I suppose. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think. And I'll be doing a live show tomorrow. Another pub quiz, which went really well yesterday. So if you're interested in taking your mind off the football, having a bit of light-hearted banter in an virtual Arsenal pub, then join us at the Adams Arms every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 GMT. And I hope to see you there. It's always a lot of laughs. But if I don't, more videos are on the way. And until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.